Okay, we'll be going in about 2 minutes. The radio station's got to catch up to us, so that's what's going on. Yeah, so last week I had Andy up here. We talked about Valley Electric. I'm going to do a little bit about that.
Yeah, I listened to about half the show.
Yeah, he got it. I actually went back to my flag bandanas like I did in 2013 when I first started. So, unfortunately, GI USA is closing. You know the store by Albertsons? Yeah, they're closing. They're great stuff in there. But the person
charged me $40 per hat.
Yeah, this is recording, so don't say anything negative about anybody. What happened was Albertsons Shopping Center went bankrupt, and they sold it for $10 million, and they're starting to raise everybody's rent, and the rent they wanted would actually eat up all her profits, so she decided not to do that. Okay, we should be ready to go in a few minutes, a few seconds. So the final music is playing.
The following program are not necessarily those of this station or its affiliates. Fighting corruption with Anthony Greco. Fighting government corruption, the real gangsters.
Greetings from corrupt Nye County. I am Anthony Greco, and this is my program, Fighting Government Corruption. Before we get to the show, support for KPFF is brought to you in part by Pure Communication, an internet service provider to Pahrump and the surrounding communities. Pure Communications, 702-628-5662. I'm going to start my program on a good note. I call this fighting government corruption, and when government people do corrupt or illegal or unethical things, I talk about it. But I'm going to say something good about the sheriff today, because she did something good. Sheriff Cheryl Worley of Nye County has told the governor that she is not going to enforce the gun law, where if I want to sell a gun to my friend Steve, or he wants to sell it to me, we have to get background checks. If I wanted to sell a gun to one of my relatives, we would have to do background checks. And Sharon Worley said to the governor, I don't know if it was in an email or a letter or in person, that she's not going to enforce that law because she doesn't think it's constitutional. So even though I'm not a big fan of Sharon Worley, she did do something correct and for the people, so I thank her for that. Hopefully she'll keep up the good work. Okay, so the hot topic in Nye County and mainly Pahrump is Valley Electric Association, the co-op, and what's going on. I went to a meeting with a lot of other people, and there was a lot of yelling and screaming going on, and they got a little disrespectful, but when people get heated up, they do get disrespectful, but that doesn't work all the time. When you start calling people stupid, they're not going to listen to you. Okay? You just, do we have a call?
No, somebody that wants to leave a message, they're going to call a friend, I don't know.
Okay. So, when you start telling people they're stupid, and politicians or people in business, they're just not going to pay attention to you. So you're wasting your oxygen and your speech just by, as soon as you start giving them a hard time. And even though I cut to the bone sometimes, there's certain times you're not supposed to do it. So, especially at a meeting like that, and they were pretty civil. There was a lot of questions they couldn't answer because there's ongoing litigation. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we have a problem with our legal system here. And you have to understand why. If you listen to everything that people say, like they're going after Angela Evans, who was the CEO, and just, I don't know if she's fired or on leave, I don't know what's going on with that. And they can't tell you about it. They can't talk about any litigation going on with any employees. So one woman yells out, well, she was arrested. The sheriff's department just don't arrest people for no reason. And I says, yes, they do. And everybody started to laugh. And the problem with our sheriff's department is, I just said something good about it, but I'm going to say something that's negative. The problem with our department is they lock people up and then they do the investigation. And you can't do that. You're supposed to do an investigation, especially my friend in New York on his job. And you're supposed to do an investigation and then you go and arrest the person for the charges. They post bail, they go home. And they didn't do the investigation. It was hearsay that she stole $75,000, which I think it was $7,500. But don't forget, the Pahrump Valley Times is the propaganda minister for the county. Just like Goebbels was Hitler's propaganda minister. So that's what Pahrump Valley Times is. I don't want to ramble on with this because I have a caller, so to respect to the caller, I'll do that. Go ahead, caller. Hey, Paul.
Anthony, how are you doing with your matter? Is it still in limbo?
Oh yeah, everything's still up in the air because it's hard to get anybody to get anything done. How you doing?
Well, I'm not doing so well here.
What happened?
I did call in the radio show to get a room. That guy, he had a room, he called me, and I came over here and I got a room in his house. He sublet the room to me. He was renting the house.
Right.
And everything. I moved in, I got my two little dogs and my guns and everything. And then he had a stroke and landed on the floor in the living room. I came home and found him, kicking and spitting and all fouled up.
Uh-huh.
So I called the paramedics. They came and got him in the timely fashion, nice and quick. Took him to the hospital and took him to Vegas, and he died.
Oh, God.
So now I'm in this house by myself, and the landlord wants he wants the house for whatever reason.
So we need to find you another room somewhere.
I need a room so bad. I'm a good guy. I'm not a convicted felon. I don't use drugs or anything like that.
Okay.
I'm a bad guy.
Okay.
But I need someplace where I can have my two little dogs that I love. But
Okay.
I don't have to live in my car. I'm a veteran, honorably discharged veteran.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I'm looking for.
All right, no problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat what you said because I'm on camera and it goes all around the world. Yeah, we're getting a little further here along now. And we need a room for a veteran, a retired veteran who's never been incarcerated, and he has a couple of dogs and stuff, and he needs a place to stay. So if anybody has a room to rent, please get in contact with me at 775-751-8036, and I'll pass the message on to Paul. How's that, Paul? Is that good?
If it's an older person whose spouse has died and they need, some companionship in the house, I'm 70 years old. I'm a life member of the National Rifle Association.
Okay.
And you can't be in that club if you're a bad guy.
Okay.
So I could supply security too.
No problem.
Flatman and I hang out a lot and we both carry sidearms.
Yeah, this what do you call? It'll be repeated on Facebook. We have. I know you have what do you call? Nye County Corruption on Facebook. Do you have that?
Well, I used to. I haven't been on the internet for a long time.
Okay.
I've been trying to save money, and you got to pay about $50 a month to be
Oh yeah, I know.
on there, and I'm financially.
I understand.
I live on a disabled veteran's pension.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll tell everybody I know this will be up on YouTube tonight and on Facebook, and I gave my number so they'll get in contact with me, and I will call you. Right. You still have your same phone number, correct?
Yeah, it's 253-5467, my cell phone.
Okay, great.
775, of course.
Okay, we'll get the word out. Thanks for the call, and yeah, keep up the good work.
All righty.
Thanks. Bye. Yeah, that was Paul Miller. Anybody out there has a room for rent? He's a real nice man. Very respectful too. Okay, so we'll get back with VEA, and you know, they have people convicted. And I turned around and told the woman, I says, you really don't know how the justice system works. I says, but I hope they never call you for jury duty because that person's going to get hung. Because this person thinks, just like I had talked with Flagman about how they were picking a jury, and people's attitude is if a cop says it, it must be true. Well, that doesn't always work like that. So what ended up happening is they were having question and answers, and I just had, because people weren't asking the right questions. So I got up and I talked about a question I had. I says, first question is, the new CEO, nice guy, 78 years old, he's had dealings with this before. Call, I'll be with you in a second. And I turned around and said, he kept saying, he had this term of, I'm going to turn this ship around. I'm going to turn this ship around. So I said to him, number one is, how come when I was watching PBS the other night, Josh Groban, I hear a commercial for Valley Electric? Now, Valley Electric is advertising on PBS. They have billboards. They advertise in the newspaper. Why? They don't have any competition. If you want electricity, you got to go to Valley Electric. They don't have to advertise. There's no competition. Post office advertises because they're advertising not mail, they're advertising packages because there's more money in packages than in regular mail. And their competition is UPS and Federal Express. But Valley Electric has no competition unless you want to live in a house without electricity. Simple. The only competition is no electricity. All right? So if that's the lifestyle, you don't need them. So I said to them, why are we wasting money on this advertisement? Why don't we become more efficient? Now you keep talking about turning this ship around. No disrespect to the directors, the board of directors, but how do you turn the ship around with the same people steering it? You got to remove them and start from scratch. Okay, go ahead, caller.
Hey, Anthony, how you doing? Smoothie Candy.
Hey, you were at that meeting and you didn't even get arrested.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that something? What I did, I put it out of there right away before they realized that I was going to the bills, you know. But I heard a lot of stuff at that meeting over there. And I'll tell you what. The bottom line, we got to find out the truth about what's going on. How can you tell us we got all this money, we got all these bills paid, and there will be no rate increase for at least 10 years, and then as soon as he resigns, right after that they tell us, well, we got to raise the rates, we got to go from $15 to $20 on your monthly check. Now, wait a minute now. What happened to all this money? Now, here's the thing. I know that everybody's going to stick up for their pals and everything else. And I'm a firm believer. The only way to get the truth, and I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong or anybody stole anything or they did. We need a grand jury. You get a grand jury, and it's very simple.
But the problem here is, and Andy had made that point, when you call the Attorney General or you call the Governor's office or even call any government agency, this is a privately owned co-op. They don't get involved. Why 9 County Sheriff's Department got involved, I have no idea. Because no government agency wants to get involved into a private co-op.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Stealing is stealing. I don't care if it's a co-op. I don't care if it's in a department store. Stealing is stealing.
But
we're talking about possibly millions and millions of dollars. Now you're putting like almost 30-some thousand people in jeopardy. See, a lot of people are working on tight budgets.
oh yeah, I understand.
And here's the thing. When you start jacking up their rates, it's not like they say, well, I'm going to go shop around. You can't shop around when they got the only game in town.
And that's exactly,
Bottom line,
yeah.
we just need the truth, okay? And like I said, from stories that have been going around, it sounds like there's a little bit of dirt going around, okay? Now, very simple. If Valley Electric says that these stories and the dirt and all these accusations are not true, very simple. Let's bring out the truth.
Right.
Okay? This way, the accusations can go by the wayside and everything else.
Right.
If there is criminal activity, then let the people that are doing it be held accountable.
But if there's criminal activity, the members of the association are supposed to go to the law enforcement. Law enforcement's not supposed to take it upon themselves. This is a private thing. This is like if you belong to the VFW and there's some money playing around in there. It's the members of that VFW that have to do the research and then bring it to law enforcement.
That's what our directors are supposed to be doing. That's why they're supposed to be looking into everything to see whether or not things are being run correctly. It's almost like being in business, okay? When I was in business, it's very simple. If I saw my bank account just disappear, I go, no, wait a minute now. I got to see where that money went. But you see, here's the thing. These directors and stuff, nobody's given any kind of statements or nothing. They're not saying, hey, wait a minute, we looked into this. There's nothing wrong, or there is something wrong, or whatever. See, I really don't believe that these directors are what I call
Competent?
Neutral. I sort of think that in order to keep their job and their position, they keep their mouth shut and their eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, I don't know who or what did what, but I think that we need a real big investigation. It's very simple. One way or the other, the bottom line is, hey, wait a minute, these are just all false accusations, or some people have to go to jail, or one of the two.
First of all, an investigation won't do this. What you need is what they call a forensic audit. And then when you see a discrepancy in where the monies went to in a forensic audit, that's how you do it. I'm not smart. I know this because of Vinny in New York, who was Assistant Investigator General. That's what he did. You do a forensic audit on the money, and then you trace the money, and then you look for the problem. If you start an investigation, it could take you 2 years. But if you do a forensic audit, it'll take you about 6 weeks.
But you know something, there's several things that took place that sort of don't look right. Number one, when the other CEO tells you we have all this money, and then all of a sudden, for no reason at all, he just takes off. Now wait a minute now. People just don't leave a position like he had with the money he was making, and just all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. And then as soon as he's gone, everything that he said turns to be just the opposite.
Right, now...
I don't know what happened, but something don't look right.
Okay.
Listen, you got a good show, I'll let somebody else call in, but that's just my opinion.
All right.
I will be at Tuesday's meeting.
I will
and,
too.
I hope that after I speak and stuff that I can scoot out without getting arrested.
Okay, good. Well, don't sit next to me. And you might get arrested by sitting next to me.
Yeah, they can go after you. You know?
All right, I'll talk to you soon. All right. One of the things that they were trying to explain at this meeting is they had built up a large amount of people working there because the guy Tom that used to be there before Angela, they were looking at all the growth, and they expected the town to grow, the county to grow, and what ended up happening was they geared up with equipment, people, before the growth started. Now, let's put it this way. The growth that they're talking about is not going to happen in 15 minutes. And you could buy 20 vehicles tomorrow morning. So you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to hire 40 people you didn't need waiting for the growth. Because you could have got their applications, and if they moved on to another job, or you could have called them and find out what was going on. So what they did was they were building an empire without a foundation. Okay? That's the easiest way I could say it that everybody could understand. They're building an empire on no foundation. And they were going back all the way back to 2008 when we had the economic collapse. 2008, 2009. That's 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. So you're building up for 10 years on something that stalled. The economy and the growth had stalled like a tractor trailer on a one-lane road. Everything got backed up. So they were waiting and waiting and waiting for growth, and that's pretty much like our old town board that we got rid of. people would come into town and they would tell them, yeah, we got X amount of people here and this is coming and that's coming, but it wasn't coming. And all these people were investing their money into this town and going bankrupt. Okay, so it's nice to plan for growth, but if you go 6 months, a year, and you don't see it happening, and another 6 months, and then another year, and it's not happening, whoa, put the brakes on, because you can't see if the road continues or you're going to fly off a cliff. So these people with big ideas with everybody else's money, like the Old Town Board and Tom Husted, you know, they're looking at the future and gambling with our money. Okay? And he wasn't an expert. He claimed to be. Now, one of the things that people didn't understand, when they sold the power lines for $200 million, they owed the bank over $80 million for those lines. Then, the reason why they promised the rates wouldn't go up is because they were putting $30 million on the side to pay for energy costs that were going up without raising our rates. Well, 5 years go by, 6 years go by, 7 years go by, and that $30 million is getting eaten alive by the cost of the power that they're buying and to keep our rates down. Well, what happened was they kept kicking that can down the road, hoping that something was going to turn out where they would start getting an inflow of money. Another thing is, they got into the hot water heater program. He spent ridiculous amounts of money. They had a warehouse full of stuff that people didn't want. They suspended that. That was a money loss. They got involved in the internet. Built it up fast and not even to what they said, and cost a lot of money. They started with the internet TV. That's going nowhere. So they're making all these giant investments with not a lot of income coming in, and they're waiting for it to happen. Just like the town board. They kept telling people, yeah, the economy's good, everything's good here, everything's good, hoping that they could BS everybody until the economy does go good. Well, when it doesn't go as fast as they plan, now they're in trouble because they gave you false hope or they lied to you. The nice way is they gave you false hope, and lying to you is what really happened. And that's what you have to understand. So now you're talking about they had to pay the $80 million back. Now the reason why they sold the stuff for $200 million and paid the $80 million, because do you realize what the interest on a commercial loan is for $80 million? The interest alone will choke you to death. So what they needed to do is get away from those interest payments, unload the stuff for $200 million, drop off that $80 million plus, because it was between $80-81 million. I'm going through memory now, so don't hold my feet to the fire here. So I'll just say it was, I think it was $80,920 something million, $100,000. So, but 80 to 81 million. They paid that off. Then they put another 30 million of that. Oh wait, before that, to pay that 80 million and make this whole deal, some attorneys got a whole bunch of millions of dollars. Okay, I don't know how much it was. It was under 10 million, but I think it was like 2.9 million for them to cut the deal. So could you imagine paying $2.9 million to pay off $80 million worth